that we don't. Mr. Walter.
Here.
Mr. Aravana.
Here.
Mr. Leonard.
Here.
Mr. Regilius.
Present.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Here.
Mr. First.
Here.
Mr. Wild.
Here.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk, sent to the Bernardsville News and the Courier News and to all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 10th, 2025.
We stand for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll open it up to the public. If there's anyone who has something they'd like to discuss, it's not on the agenda.
As of right now, Jake, who we all know is from the Bernardsville News, would be the only public that we have. Carolyn is with the applicant and she'll be doing the Zoom process for us. So
Okay,
unless Jake has something to say about anything that's not on the agenda.
okay, we'll close it to the public. We have minutes that we need to approve from March 13th. If you've had a chance to look at them, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody need to recuse?
I'm abstaining.
Steve is also.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a letter from the attorney for 20 Route 206. They'd like to postpone till September 11th. Okay, we also have a resolution, BDE Holdings. We've had a chance to look at that. We need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Lou, second.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Ms. Arvani, we're not here. Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Regilius?
Aye.
Mr. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. Wild?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye. Okay, we have a determination of completeness, vanish. What is it?
Varnish,
Varnish.
varnish. No.
Oh, it's an R there, yeah, varnish.
This is an application for an addition on an existing single-family dwelling as well as the construction of a detached garage on a property along Pottersville Road. There are a number of items that have not been submitted. The one of most note is the Board of Health approval. This property had an alteration to its septic system that required deviations from the standards. The proposal adds bedrooms and has other elements of it. That means you have to have a system that is in 100% compliance with the health code. So until they go through the Board of Health, my recommendation that they be deemed incomplete before they come here.
Okay. Do we vote on that? Do we vote on incomplete? I don't remember.
Tom?
So.
Yeah, you might as well because the Paul didn't find anything. He wasn't willing to waive it, so they're probably asking to waive it. But so it'd be a motion to deny any waiver for the septic system approval, as explained by Mr. Ferrero, and to deem the application incomplete. Is there such a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Aye.
Ms. Arvani?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Regilius?
Aye.
Mr. DiGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. First?
Aye.
Mr. Wild?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye. Okay, old business, we have a fourth round of affordable housing, is there? Right, something you want to talk about right now?
We're not gonna, yeah, at this point, there's nothing other than
information that you previously received, the background information. And I'll answer any questions about that if you have. I don't imagine that you've looked at it and have questions tonight. But we will, governing body and the subcommittee will be looking at some alternatives. We'll come back to you probably at the next meeting to talk about that.
All right. And the state development redevelopment plan?
We
Anything-
submitted that information that the board had the opportunity to review and that was improved by the board's comments. And I thought one of the things about it, I'm not sure if you saw what I sent to the state, but there was a cover letter. And they asked for what we thought were the three most important goals and priorities, which I thought was kind of lame to have all the stuff that you talk about and to ask for three. But I figured out a way to turn 3 into 9 by. So I would like you to see those things that I put in our communication, just so if you disagreed, I doubt that you disagree, but so you appreciate how we've gotten involved there. Just 2-minute summary is, we just finished the process of getting our plan endorsed and our centers expanded to include AT&T in 23. So we were like up to snuff with the state plan already. They admitted that. They basically had a way for us to say in that response we gave them that we just gone through that, but we still took the time to answer their questions, and particularly the one about those priorities. So I won't take the time now, but if you haven't gotten it yet, I'll make sure I send it to you tomorrow.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I guess we can start with our new hearing. New Jersey American Water.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Neil O'Brien. I'm an attorney with Archer and Griner PC, attorney for the applicant, New Jersey American Water Company, this evening, who is a public utility, providing water services in Bedminster and in surrounding areas. This is a little bit of an unusual application this evening. Very minor in nature in terms of what's actually proposed here, but the applicant operates a water storage tank on the Hamilton Golf Club. It's a 1 million gallon storage tank that was approved by this board back in 1980, at which time it was constructed. For the last few years, the applicant has had a treatment trailer right next to the tank, which our engineer here will describe the purpose of the trailer. But the trailer was located there pursuant to temporary use permits granted by the governing body. I think there were 3 or 4 of them. And at a certain point, when the governing body decided, look, if this is going to be out here for an extended amount of time, you should go before the Planning and Zoning Board and get a variance for the use and site plan approval to allow it to continue. So that's what we're asking for this evening. The treatment trailer is right next to the tank, located in the trees, as you'll see here in testimony. Property, the golf course is located in the R10 zoning district. Public utilities are not specifically permitted by ordinance in that zone. The tank, of course, exists. It's been there since 1980 or 1981. But because we're adding something to the tank, this represents a use variance or a D2 variance for the expansion of a lawfully existing non-conforming use. The tank and the trailer will ultimately be replaced, as you'll hear, by permanent structures, a replacement tank and a regular masonry building to house the trailer. The tank's in-service date is projected to be 2023. You would see us, of course, 2033. I'm older than I think. You will see us, of course, before that, because we'll have to come before you and get approvals for the replacement of the tank and for the building. So I would estimate you'll see us, let me make sure I get it right, sometime around 2031 with that application. So we're going to ask this evening that you allow us to keep the tank on the property until 2033. The tank, the trailer, of course, would need to stay there while the new facility was being constructed, with the presumably with the old tank remaining in service and continuing to provide the service that it provides until the new tank is ready to open. So with that, I have 2 witnesses who I'll ask to give you testimony this evening. Counsel, what's your pleasure? Would you like to swear them in together or as they come up?
Let's do them both together in case we have questions in between.
Sure.
So lady and, or is it two ladies?
Lady
Please
and
raise your
gentleman.
right, lady and gentlemen, please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your names and at least a business address.
Carolyn Zabrowski, from Mont McDonald, 3 Paragon Way, Freehold, New Jersey.
James Kyle with Kyle McManus Associates in Hopewell, New Jersey, professional planner.
Thank
Thank-
you. Please
Thank
go ahead.
you. Thank you, sir. Carolyn, could you give the board the benefit of your qualifications and your expertise that entitle you to or qualify you to give the testimony you're about to give to the board?
Sure. So I'm a licensed professional engineer in
Could you
the.
talk into the microphone, please? I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in civil and environmental engineering from Rutgers University. I've been working at Mont McDonald for almost 19 years. And I am the project manager and engineer of record for this project.
And Madam Chair, we'd ask that Ms. Zabrowski be accepted for as a licensed professional engineer for purpose of giving testimony in that capacity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we will.
Thank you, Counselor. So Carolyn, if you could, just referring to your first exhibit there, which we'll label A1, which is an overall vicinity aerial plan. Could you orient the board to the general area here, and then we'll go a little closer and zoom in on the facility in question.
Yes, so the property in question is the parcel for the Hamilton Farms Golf Club. And we're bounded by Pottersville Road up on the top of the page here, Fowler Road along the right, larger crossroad over on the bottom, and it kind of Pottersville Road wraps back around. And our specific portion of the site that is of most interest to us is this corner over here, which is our tank site.
And that's a lease area or an easement area that was acquired from the golf course back when the tank was first constructed, correct?
Correct.
What's around the tank in terms of adjacent uses? Obviously, the dominant use is the golf course. What else is there?
So it's mostly a wooded area, right, immediately adjacent to the golf course. There is one residence to the left of the tank, which is, I believe, also owned by the golf course.
And obviously, there's a lot of vegetation in that area, lots of trees.
Correct.
So the tank's been there since 1980, correct? Describe the tank or the history of it, if you will.
Sure. So the tank, can I go to the next?
Yep,
exhibit?
sorry. So
Yep.
we'll move to exhibit A2, which is an aerial for the tank and the easement or lease area.
Sure. So the tank, and I think I'll zoom in further so you can actually see things here. So the tank is located within a 120-foot diameter easement on the property. Off the center line of the tank. It holds about 1 million gallons of water. Originally, it was owned by Elizabethtown Water Company. New Jersey American Water acquired this tank when they merged with Elizabethtown Water. And the tank is used for the storage and distribution of potable water for the Bedminster Peapack Gladstone area.
Okay, it's not used by the golf club for irrigation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And New Jersey American Water is a public utility serving Bedminster. Could you give just a brief description of the system, number of customers, et cetera?
Sure. So this particular tank serves about 2,600 customers in the Peapack, Gladstone, and Bedminster areas. The average monthly demand that we see coming in and out of this tank is about 22 million gallons per month, which equates to about 0.7 million gallons per day. And obviously the goal of the tank is to provide, safe and reliable water service. So it will store water when it's not needed and provide it when it is, based on the pressures within the system. And it also serves as fire protection to have water when you need it in case of a fire.
So most municipalities
probably have a water storage tank, is that correct?
1 or 2 or 3, yes.
And what happens to the tank during peak demand and then after peak demand? What goes on in there?
So during peak demand periods, so when you use water at your house, and a lot of people are using water, then the tank level will go down. And then as the pressures rise and you don't use as much water in the distribution system, the tank level then rises again and then provides the storage in the tank for the next time you need it.
So it stores the water and then releases it when it's needed by the system.
Correct.
And where does the water come from that you fill it up?
So the water from this that is in this tank comes from New Jersey American Water's Raritan Millstone treatment plant, which is, I believe, located in
I'm sorry.
In
comes from
Bridgewater.
where?
the Raritan Millstone Water Treatment Plant is located in Bridgewater.
So the water is treated at Raritan Millstone from New Jersey American Water's water sources. There's a reservoir there. I think there's some wells there too. And then it's distributed throughout the system, correct?
I believe that takes it off the Raritan River. Surface water
Surface,
from
it's
the
all
Raritan River.
surface, sorry. And makes its way to the tank where it's stored in the tank as you've just described.
Correct.
So in terms of the use and operation of the tank, what happens at the tank on a daily basis, and how much activity is there, et cetera?
Take to fill up, back up again. To replace the water tank.
It depends on the flow in and out. I don't know the exact timing of it, but there's a certain threshold that, if it gets down to a certain point, there will be pumps that kick on back at Raritan Millstone that will push more water into the system to then fill it up and provide the water for the surrounding area.
Does that usually happen like at night when it's less
It's on an as needed.
basis?
Yep. It depends on the pressures in the system. or
So the
tank.
water's pumped in there or is?
Pump. It's pumped from, the Raritan Millstone treatment plant out into the distribution system and to the tank.
And so there's a series of underground pipes or?
Correct, yes.
This tank is above ground.
Yes. It's a ground level, it's called a ground level tank, so it's not like an elevated tank that you would see that's on a pedestal that's up in the air. This one is just, it has a flat slab and it sits on the ground.
So how often do New Jersey American Water personnel need to be at this tank? Is there somebody there all the time? Do they visit daily?
So it's
So-
an unmanned site, and I believe, with the trailer here, I think one person per day comes to check on the site. There's no regular personnel involved.
So what's the trailer do?
We'll get to that in just
Yep.
a second.
Oh, okay, sorry. I don't want to get
I'm
jumped
gonna bring it full circle here. Yep, we're setting the stage.
Okay.
So from your observation, your work here, the tank is relatively invisible from surrounding properties because of the trees, correct?
Correct, yes.
And the trailer is right there beside it. Little or no discernible impact on surrounding properties unless you're and probably not visible unless you go up that little pathway and you're right there at the tank also, right?
Yes, exactly.
And I mentioned before that the tank itself will probably be replaced sometime in 2033. What would be the sequencing of something like that from a general project perspective? Not asking you to predict the future, but generally, how does a project like this get implemented?
Sure, so I would anticipate that probably sometime in 2030, New Jersey American Water will procure an engineer to design the new tank and associated site improvements, et cetera, as well as the building that's going to be associated with the chemical boosting, which we'll get to. That's what's in the trailer. And so that's the first step would be the design and then the associated permitting for that, and followed by most likely a bid phase and then final construction of the
And
tank.
including probably about maybe a third of the way in coming before the board for approvals
Yes,
to implement the project also.
Yep.
So if we could just move to the next exhibit and then let's describe what is proposed here physically, and then we'll get to the purpose of the trailer.
Yes.
So this is the site plan, and it's part of the site plan set, but Counselor, would you like us to label it A3?
No, that won't be necessary. It's part of the site plan.
So maybe, yeah, zoom in a little bit so that, there we go.
So similar to what you saw on the aerial, we've got our existing storage tank and the trailer kind of located within the easement down to the right here. So this trailer is for the booster chloramination of the water that's inside of the tank. So when water leaves the Raritan Millstone treatment plant, it's fed with chlorine and ammonia, which combines to become chloramine, and that provides the disinfection and the chlorine residual for the distribution system to prevent, bacteria from growing in the water or, adjacent to the water. As the water gets further away from the treatment plant, the chlorine residual degrades. So the trailer has additional chemical inside that's meant to be injected into the water tank and boost that chlorine residual so that you maintain a safe chlorine residual throughout your distribution system.
So it basically replenishes what was put in at the Raritan Millstone plant when the raw water, if you will, was treated.
Correct.
And by the time it gets here, the water company deems it necessary to just sort of give that a boost or replenish just those particular elements.
Yes.
And what are the two chemicals that are used? Could you talk a little bit about that? Are they hazardous? Are any danger to the public here?
So inside the trailer, there is 12.5% sodium hypochlorite, which is essentially bleach. It's a little stronger concentration. Concentration of bleach is typically, bleach that you use for your laundry is about 6%. So this is like twice the strength of regular bleach. And then 40% ammonium sulfate. So the ammonium sulfate is inert, no issues or concerns about corrosiveness or smells or anything related to the ammonium sulfate. The sodium hypochlorite is a corrosive substance, but it's being stored in quantities that are small enough to be under the threshold for any sort of concern related to the chemical.
How are they delivered?
So the personnel that come to visit the site on any given day will bring 5-gallon, they're called carboys, they're little 5-gallon, containers of each of the chemicals and kind of top off the tanks that are in the trailer currently.
And this treatment process and the trailer received DEP approvals, appropriate DEP approvals, correct?
Yes, they were approved in 2020 for the use of this trailer.
Obviously, there's no public access to this facility, to this tank, right?
Correct.
And because we've only got really one utility truck coming every day, there's no real need for parking up here.
No.
There's really no need for provision for trash receptacles. If the folks, if they have something that's generated, they just take it away with them. Is that right?
Correct.
So we talked a little bit about the R10 zoning district. So the facility exists. The tank itself. It's not a permitted use by ordinance. And then the trailer is something that was introduced, if you will, first by temporary use permits from the governing body. But we're asking the board to sort of ratify or grant the appropriate zoning approvals to allow it to stay for a little more extended period of time, right?
Correct. Until the new facility is.
So just referring to zoning, in terms of our easement area and setbacks, how do we fare?
So the tank itself is approximately 33 feet, 33.5 feet from the property line at its shortest point. The trailer is further than that. It's about 87 feet at the shortest point from the property line.
So,
Excuse me,
yeah,
what property line are you speaking about? What's on the other side of that property line?
The adjacent property is wooded.
Excuse me?
It's a wooded,
It's wooded and it's still part of Hamilton Farms? Or is it somebody's personal property or something?
so that's this area right here. I believe this is owned by,
I think it's privately.
yeah, I believe so.
It's private property?
Yes. That would be literally right here.
And you're on this property pursuant to an easement
An easement and a lease, yes,
and a lease?
100-year lease,
And it gives you the right to do what you want to do in 2030?
yes, yes.
Was this tank put in before Hamilton Farms became a golf club?
Yes.
Okay, except that I just wasn't understanding why why a tank would be in a golf course, but it was done before. Okay, so it was mostly wooded area and you said,
What would be a good location for a tank, Carol, in terms of elevations and in relation to the rest of the system?
So tanks would typically be at some of the higher locations in the system, to minimize the height that the tank needs to be in order to store the amount of water that's necessary in there.
And to let it basically
And
flow
to
back
flow
into the
back
system.
by kind of gravity.
So the water company would have picked, Elizabethtown Water would have picked a high point in the township. And not necessarily concerned about what the nature of the property was, but more concerned with the elevation in
Right,
terms of the rest of the system.
correct.
it creates water pressure.
Yes.
Any issues with wetlands, stormwater, noise related to the tank?
No, there are no, no wetlands in the vicinity. The trailer will not provide any, significant, issues with stormwater. There is no noise coming from the trailer. The only mechanical equipment that's in there are some small pumps to pump the water, to pump the chemical into the tank.
And we actually have a picture of the tank, right?
We have a picture of the trailer, yes.
The trailer, sorry, with the tank. Counselor, we've got a picture of the existing trailer on the site, which we're asking for. So it's the existing trailer, we'll call it, which we're asking for approval to retain. And the tank's right there behind it, right, Carolyn?
Yes.
That should be marked as A1.
A3, I think we're at,
Oh,
Counselor, sorry.
A3.
Yeah, we had the
Oh,
two
wait.
areas. Yeah, you're okay.
Oh, okay. The A1 is an aerial and A2 is an aerial or what?
The A2 is a sort of closer up aerial of the easement area and the location of the tank. A1 was the general sort of area, aerial showing the entire golf course, basically. Last thing, Carolyn, there wouldn't be any point in putting landscaping around this or trying to pretty it up. It's all the way up back there in the woods, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's pretty heavily wooded in this area, and I don't know if any trees would grow if you wanted to put them there.
And
It's
so
pretty shaded.
to get to take this photograph, you basically got to traverse a roadway that kind of winds between the trees and leads from the roadway into the golf course and back up to the tent.
Yep, yeah, if I go back to exhibit A2, it kind of shows the easement, the schoolhouse lane, and then they have pipes underground in this area as well as a path. I think it's a dirt path from schoolhouse lane.
Has there ever been any vandalism here?
I don't know that I can speak to that.
The water company's not aware of any. So nothing recent, I think, is the answer.
How many gallons of chemicals, what size is a tank for the chemicals that are used? The two chemicals, I think. Are they sort of like 50 gallon?
Yeah, so the ammonium sulfate is, I believe, a 55-gallon drum size.
Okay.
And then the sodium hypochlorite is a little more. I believe it was 165 gallon.
And are those tanks inspected periodically to make sure they're not leaking? Are they made out of polypropylene? Do you know that?
Yeah, so they are HDPE.
Okay.
And they when the staff come daily, that's one of the things that they check is to confirm that everything is in operational condition in the trailer.
And has the main tank itself changed over the years? I mean, obviously you received approval to have that installed. Has it expanded or have there been any modifications to the tank itself, the water tank?
No.
Okay.
That I'm aware of.
They've got a pretty long lifespan, right, water tank, if they're maintained
If,
correctly.
yeah, if they're well maintained, I mean, they can last 50 years or more.
Okay, but the plan is to change it around in 5 years to redo the tank, put a new tank in and integrate this treatment system and get rid of the trailer, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
It'll most likely be a small building
You're
beside
right.
the new tank, right?
Yep, small masonry building with rooms for each chemical to reside.
Thanks.
Can you show us or talk about the route the water comes from, from Bridgewater to here? Talk about the pipes, where those underground pipes are.
I don't have that information readily available.
No?
I'm fairly certain they come up 206 and then Pottersville Road and into the site.
Because there's another tank on 206, right, in Bridgewater.
From
Yes,
206 from where?
From Bridgewater. All the way down from where they're
Like
taking them.
Bridgewater, like by.
It's
Green
down at
Knoll,
the
or-
Chimney Rock. It's where the recycling center is.
Across from the temple.
And the Superfund site.
Well, he's saying across from the temple.
that's where the
didn't-
other tank is.
That's different from what you're.
That's where the other tank is.
That's where the.
But they have a surface draw down in Bridgewater. And it comes all the way up.
And there's a
Is-
whole
is that
network
water-
of piping that.
That's fluoridated,
Mm,
American water, they're using fluoride still?
It depends on the system. I'm not sure if this one is fluoridated.
Is there a way to find out?
Yes, I can find out.
I'll text.
Thank you.
And because I know they do use fluoride, American water, but now, as you are probably aware, we're trying to get rid of that.
Sure. I don't know
That
that-
wouldn't affect this tank though.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's,
Well, no,
we're not
it-
adding any new fluoride here.
Yeah, so
It's
it
just
affects.
chlorine and ammonia.
Yeah, I think that would be.
So how do we find out?
I think he's looking.
We're hoping to
He's-
have that
Okay.
answer in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay, any
Any other questions for Carolyn?
board?
The current trailer. They're. Are they taking the chemicals out of the current trailer and putting them into the tank? Or is the trailer connected to the tank where there's? Somebody's going into the trailer, injecting them into the system from the trailer?
Yeah, good
Do you know what I
question. So there are
Was the
tanks,
encapsulating work?
sure, there are tanks in the trailer, one for each chemical, and they have small chemical metering pumps, they're called. So the pumps take the chemical and there are chemical lines that run up into the tank and it's injected into the tank. And that's where it's all mixed together and creates your chlorine residual. There's also some water lines that run in and out of the tank that feed analyzers, so we can determine what the level of chlorine is in the tank so that we don't over or underfeed.
I have a question. The chlorine dissipates apparently from when it comes from the treatment plant all the way up to Pottersville. I'm not understanding. I have a pool, so I understand chlorination and all of that kind of stuff. But if the system is closed and not exposed to the open air, why does the chlorine dissipate or how? So that it has to be recharged again up in Pottersville.
So there's a number of factors. One is just the distance that it has to travel. So as it time, right? It takes longer to get to the further ends of the system. So over time, chlorine residual degrades. In addition, during the summer, chlorine will degrade faster due to the warmer weather. And even though you would think that it's a closed system, things like these tanks, they do have air vents and that portion of it is open. So there is some ability to, you know, have additional temperature affect the chlorine residual in the tanks as well as in the system.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the board?
Just to answer your question, sir, the water, the answer that we've got, the water is not fluoridated. Mr. Floystrops for the water company, he's gonna have to make a phone call. If that answer change to confirm that answer changes, we will let you know.
So there are areas though that are fluoridated within the
Of the
American
system,
water,
of the system currently,
but
yes,
this
there are.
one is not.
That's the information we got, yeah.
I wonder why it's not.
I can try. I'm the attorney.
Yeah, generally it
Well,
depends on the
thank you.
system, the
Sure, I
administration.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No, we'll try to get you that answer.
Good, I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll open it up to the public.
We have, we just have our planner. We do have the D variances. If we could just put some testimony on the record about how the variants are justified. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we'll.
I
we'll
think
do
she was
that.
looking
We
for
just-
question for the
open it up.
engineer.
Sorry.
I'm just opening it up to the public first for this witness. And then we'll move on. Janine?
There is no public online, so unless there's public here,
Nope.
I don't see at this moment.
I don't see anybody either. So, okay, we'll close it to the public. Here's your next witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Mr. Kyle, you've been sworn in. Could you give the board the benefit of your educational and professional qualifications that qualify you to give the testimony you're about to give in relation to planning the project?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Planning and Design from Rutgers, which I received in 1996. Been a practicing planner for over 25 years. Been qualified as an expert before over 240 boards in the state, including this one. The last time I was here was on Ann Brooks' application on Lamington Road. That was in July of 23, I believe. Licensed as a professional planner by the state of New Jersey. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners.
Thanks, Mr. Kyle. So you've looked at this application, the development, and you have looked at the ordinances and the master plan, obviously. What's your assessment with respect to the variances that are being requested?
Sure. So the applicant is seeking D2 variance relief to expand a legally existing non-conforming use. And we also need a bulk variance for, I guess it's been determined to be a front yard for the setback of the trailer. 300 feet is what's required under the golf course section of standards in the R10 district. This property is a little unique, as you saw from the overall area. We have frontage on 3 roadways. The southern portion of the property is the only part that doesn't bound a roadway. So it creates an interesting question about what's a side yard, what's a front yard, what's a rear, but we'll err on the side of caution, call it a front yard and say that 300 feet is required. And we have 87.08. So we need that bulk variance as well. So as far as the D2 variance, if this was a D1 use variance, I'd be arguing that this is an inherently beneficial use. It's a public utility. This facility provides safe, potable drinking water for the system within the township and within PPAC Gladstone. D2 variance is a little different in that, you know, this use is already there. The inherently beneficial use classification, I think, is a little less relevant because the standards for a D2 are slightly different than what you would normally hear for a D1 variance. So we still have to demonstrate both the positive and the negative criteria. The differences are, we're not going to talk about the Medici enhanced proof required for a D1 variance because that is unique to that specific class of use variance. But we still have to show that there's no substantial detriment to the public good that's impact to surrounding properties. And then we also have to show that there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. So on the positive criteria, obviously the purpose that's personified most is purpose A, to promote the general welfare. The treatment process that happens with this trailer at this site is critical to the safe water supply, not only for township residents, but for residents of the region. So obviously that's an important function that people rely on a daily basis. So I think we can show that the public welfare is promoted. This facility is absolutely necessary to maintain a safe drinking water supply in the area. Negative criteria considerations. First, again, we'll talk about any impact to adjacent property. So as you can see on the aerial A2 that's on the screen right now, the tank is in an isolated location on the golf course property. The residential dwelling that you see in this exhibit is 480 feet from the closest edge of the tank. The trailer is on the opposite side of the tank from this residential use, so it's on the southeast side of the tank. This location is not widely visible. I drove around the area this morning. You can't really even see the tank. It doesn't get any higher than the trees. And then the trailer is on the side of the tank and well hidden. The only place you can really see the tank and the trailer is from Schoolhouse Lane as you're entering to go down to the equestrian facilities. So in terms of any potential impact from the expansion here in the, we'll call it ratification of the trailer remaining until we replace that facility, there's really no impact to any of the adjacent properties. We're about, just over 400 feet from Schoolhouse Lane as well. So the visibility is relatively limited, particularly in the summer, once the leaves come on the trees. You can see the tank from that residential use to our west. However, the trailer is on the opposite side of the tank from that. In the summertime, you won't even be able to see the tank from that residential use. That property, our understanding, is also owned by the golf course, and that's the president's home. So obviously they're aware of that being there. As far as any impact to the intent and purpose of the zone plan and ordinance, I did review the 2003 master plan and the amendment that the board adopted in 2005. Also reviewed the 2018 and 2021 reexamination reports. When you look at the goals and objectives outlined in the 05 master plan, specifically related to land use and management, the primary focus there is obviously on preserving natural resources, maintaining the township's countryside feel and sense of place, and also providing a reasonable balance of land uses. And really the focus there in the master plan was limiting more intense development to the highway corridors, which was achieved with the zoning. The land management ordinance also has a purpose statement. It generally mirrors those purposes of the municipal land use law. So I think, when you think about the purpose of the requests that we have in front of the board this evening, the importance of it to the public water supply system, in reviewing those goals, this is a facility that's been here for 45 years, roughly. It's very isolated. The grant of the relief in this case isn't really going to have any impact on the intent and purpose of the zone plan in the ordinance, in my opinion, after reviewing those thoroughly. Again, we're doing this. It's something that's critical to the water supply. We're doing it in a way that's not really visible to anybody outside the property. So there's not really much impact associated with it in any way. As far as the bulk variance, I think this would meet on the positive criteria, the C1 for a hardship. So when you look at the C1 criteria, it can be some physical condition of the property. It can also be an exceptional situation that uniquely affects the property. In this case, we have a lease area that you can see that's outlined in a circle around the tank. In order to comply with that 300-foot setback, we would have to move the trailer outside of the lease area. So we don't have any right to use anything outside the lease area. So that creates an exceptional situation where we're unable to comply with that setback requirement of 300 feet. I think in this case, in terms of the negative criteria, again, from the setback, this trailer will not be visible from outside the property. It's well hidden by the tank. There's limited visibility on Schoolhouse Lane. That's a driveway that primarily serves the U.S. equestrian facilities. So, when I was there today, there were a few cars that come in and out, but you really kind of have to turn your head and look down the access road to be able to see the location where the trailer is. So, but in terms of any setback, and I will go, there was a question. Let's see, mouse. There we go. So there was a question about what you don't see here is there's a lot line that extends basically from where the property goes at a 90-degree angle here out to Pottersville Road. So there is a vacant lot here. The one thing I'll say is that the tank is located at the highest part of the property. That lot, as it goes down to Pottersville, slopes down. So it's a fairly sloping property. Even if that property were developed in the future, it's not really going to have a view of the location where the trailer is, because it's so far downhill. So really no potential that there would be substantial impact from that setback, particularly since the trailer is kind of farther away from the property line than the tank itself. And then as far as any potential impact or impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan, I don't know that I've ever seen a master plan in New Jersey that talks about the justification for specific setbacks, it's generally geared towards providing adequate light, air, and open space. In this case, in the R10 district, there's some language in there that talks about, countryside character, and there are specific setbacks that are geared towards the size of structures and things like that. So there was a conscious discussion in the R10 and a decision to, relate those setbacks that are required to the zoning, the 10-acre minimum. But I think in this case, given the location of the tank, the fact that it's isolated, we're not going to offend any of the purposes of that standard, particularly given the, what we see here on A1 and the isolated location. So I think we can meet both the positive and negative for both the D2 variance as well as the bulk variance that we're seeking.
Questions for Mr. Kyle?
Anyone on the board?
Okay, thank you.
Right, you have any?
I agree with everything you said.
That was easy.
You worked for me, that's where you learned all.
I did. It's 25 years ago.
It was a little while ago.
Can we go back to his credibility?
You might want to check that.
Yeah.
Okay, again, we'll open it up to the public.
No public online, no public in the audience.
Okay, then we will close it. And, I guess, Tom?
Yes, if the board is ready, you should consider or might consider a motion on a resolution to be memorialized at a later date to grant the New Jersey American Water Company the D variance and C variances and preliminary and final site plan for the proposed trailer as described this evening, with the normal conditions, standard conditions, and with the conditions of Paul and Frank's review reports. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Ms. Sarabon?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. DeGiovanni?
Aye.
Mr. First?
Aye.
Mr. Wild?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gotcha.
Aye,
Thank you.
you're more than welcome.
Thanks for
Very
the
much.
water.
Mhm, yeah, right. Board have any comments? No? Okay. So what are we doing with scheduling, Janine?
We have a couple of applications. As you know, the one was deemed incomplete. There was another one. So we have 3 applications in total. Forest was just deemed incomplete. The other one was the gas station, the Exxon, not the, the first one, the one over in Buckaman. Paul will be letting us know.
I almost got the letter done before I got here tonight, but that one is also incomplete.
What are they trying to do?
Yeah, what do they want to do?
It's because of the convenience store that's inside that they already did.
They're also doing EV charging stations outside. And that's what they made the application for, but I reminded them that they built a convenience store inside without approvals.
By the way.
Whoops, by the way.
By the way.
Oh, we forgot it.
And then we have AT&T that's coming to us for C variance and site plan waivers. And that just got brought to us at the end of March. So, we have some time, till May, whether or not.
Yeah, that's for an emergency generator on the site they just moved into.
So,
Okay.
honestly, we don't have anything that's coming up at this point. Obviously, we're gonna need to get together for the 4th round.
Yeah.
We do have the, extension letter, right, Tom, that,
Right,
that was, asked for. So we will definitely.
Country Club Estates.
Thank you, 305 Country Club. So we will definitely meet at least once in May, whether or not there's an application. It may just be here any 4th round and to do the, 1-year extension.
Discussion.
But at this point, I'm gonna wait and see if anybody has anything that comes up before then. Maybe Paul will deem AT&T complete. Maybe we will be able to hear them. Maybe it'll have to be May 8th so that they
It
can.
probably will be complete
Okay.
based on what I've seen.
Mhm.
Right, so to give them enough time to notice me would more than likely, but it'll all depend, so I'll just keep you posted.
In the context of the AT&T application, the section of the ordinance that's on site plan exemptions. And one of the exemptions is a generator, is an emergency generator. The reason why this is coming here is because they're using up a number of parking spaces on the site
Oh,
where they're technically deficient on parking. So that's why you'll see, if that weren't the case, you wouldn't have seen.
Yeah, your parking lot is full.
You don't wanna put in a couple of EV chargers and get the credit?
That doesn't make the cars disappear, and they do have EV charger. They have a couple of,
But it changes the math on what.
changes the math, but the parking lot's full.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Parking lot.
full, right?
It's
Yeah,
full.
It's
always full.
it's full, and you may be seeing them for a lighting application in the future as well.
All right. And
We'll
we
move
have
back to the
anything
old one.
else? We can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, third.
Night, everybody.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.
One of those eyes was going out the door.
Thank you,
Good
Tom.
night, everybody. Good night.
Aye.
Night.
Night, everyone.
Night, Jim.
Good night.